How's it going, guys, and welcome to today's video. It's been a couple weeks now since these corrals were full of yearling calves as we sorted off the replacement heifers and feeder steers that we wanted to keep here on the ranch and took the rest of the calves down the road to the auction. This year I tried something new on the ranch. I held these calves as long as I possibly could until my feed reserves were getting so low that I was starting to get nervous and I felt like I had to take them. The goal of that was to try to put more pounds on the calves and ultimately make more money at the sale. How did we do? Well, the numbers are in and we're going to talk about it. That's what's going on today on Farmer Tyler Ranch. On a normal year, my weaned calves would be at this feed bunk until about the middle of January, at which point we would go through and make our selections and take the rest to the auction. This year, on the other hand, in about the second week of February, the weather just got so nice, the ground really dried up, and I was able to put them out on grass. All 35 yearling calves spent a week in this pasture while still consuming 20 bales or 1 ton of supplemental hay. Once the calves grazed down that front pasture, I put them out here in the middle field where they spent another week out here and ate another ton of hay. At this point, I'd kept them about 5 weeks longer than normal. That's 3 weeks at the feed bunk, 1 week in the front field, and 1 week in the middle field. So now it was time to put them into the largest pasture that they would see, the backfield. Out here in the backfield, they spent another 2 weeks of grazing and consumed about 10 bales or half of a ton of supplemental hay. You guys wanted to be in this video? It is all about you, after all. After 2 weeks of grazing, selections were made, and those that didn't make the cut went to the sale, and those that did are what you see here. In total, I fed an extra 155 bales to these calves to keep them into March at a cost of about $700 to me. I raised the hay myself and my cost per bale is around $4.50. So to sum it up, I kept these calves an additional 7 weeks and spent about $700 worth of hay to keep them here. The real question is, did I make an additional $700 at the sale? Well, let's go run the numbers and find out. I dug out my check stub from 2019 and I figured out that my average weight per calf last year was 490 pounds. My heaviest steer came in at 620 pounds and my lightest heifer was right at 385. After running the same figures on the calf crop for 2020, I determined that my average weight per animal rose to 550 pounds. Although my heaviest steer was only 611, which I thought was interesting because it's lower than the highest steer from last year, which was 620. And my lightest heifer was 513 pounds, and I think that's probably what really helped the average. The 2020 calf crop was far more uniform than that in 2019, with an average variation of only 98 pounds compared to the over 200 pound variation in 2019. So this definitely helped with our average weaning weight, but still, at the end of the day, we added 60 pounds to our weaning weight on average, and that's nothing to sneeze at. But the real question is, did it pay off? This year we averaged $1.37 per pound for our calves, and if our calves weighed on average 60 pounds more than they would have if we sold them earlier, then that means that we made roughly $80 more per head. If you apply that to the 22 calves that we sold, we approximately made an extra $1,760. But remember, we had to spend about $700 worth of hay to make that $1,700, so really our profit is somewhere around just over $1,000. I guess the way to really sum up what I think of this experiment is to ask myself, will I try to do this again next year? Now, like anything, I think you have to weigh the pros and the cons. On the pro side, obviously, we made some money. That was awesome. The other thing that I haven't mentioned yet that I really enjoyed is that I didn't have to load calves and work calves in the mud. I actually got to do that on dry ground for once. On the con side, however, I did run these calves through this whole ranch and basically deplete all of my natural resources for feed, being grass. Now, this year that wasn't an issue because the weather cooperated and everything worked out fine, and I didn't really have to give the cows a lot of extra supplementation. After the calves went through, there was enough time still for the pastures to recover and the cows to go out there. But some years, the weather might not allow that to happen, and then I could find myself in a situation where I don't have enough hay to feed all the animals. So to answer the question, I think yes, I will do this again, but everything is just going to have to line up just right for me to want to do it. That means the weather forecast has to be favorable, the barn has to have enough hay in it to where I feel comfortable, and if those two things are right, I don't see any reason why I wouldn't do this again. As farmers and ranchers, we have to be adaptable. We have to be able to adjust to changing conditions because there's a lot of factors that we deal with that are completely out of our control. What I'm saying is that this year, this feeding regimen worked for me pretty good, but next year it may not. I think this is a good idea and it definitely does work, but there are some things to consider because there's some risk involved. Mostly I'm talking about feed storage and available feed. Once you get those all dialed in, you should be ready to go. Thanks for hanging out with me today, guys, and I hope I'll see you again on Farmer Tyler Ranch.